Hey everyone, Kelly Stark of Stark Art Designs and Finishing, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get this recording video done for you guys, but I have to tear down the entire thing to set up the 3 cameras, which is also a little disconcerting seeing yourself at 3 different angles. So first thing we're gonna start with is we're going to talk about different fibers that I use. I use everything. Whatever's the right color is what I use. So if you want to use any of the rainbow galleries, any pearl cottons, it really is just about figuring out the ratio of how many strands. So the first thing that we're going to, let me get a taupe, of course I'm not prepared. This has a ton of different fibers in it, so I'll grab this taupe. Behind me you can see all my fabric totes, my very messy studio, all of my, I have tons of these filled with different colors. So basic ornament size cording. So we're going to talk about Krynic. We're going to talk about pearl cotton. Find one that's a color I don't use a ton so I can show you how to chop it. Alright, we have different, this is Treasure Chest, very pretty color, blues, golds, nice to add some sparkle. I really don't enjoy using these cards only because of how you have to unwind them. So typically the people that I have finished for, they want very specific things. They usually send me the fibers, they send me the material. It is laborious to dig through all your stuff and see if you've got the right color. If you don't have the right color, then you're off to the store and looking for, begging for whatever you might be able to find. I have used a bunch of different, the Vineyard Silks. This is Shimmer, which I'm not sure they make anymore. We were talking about that the other day. I use watercolors. And so when you start looking at these different fibers and when they come off of the skein or the spool, they're all different kinds of thicknesses. And so you kind of have to figure out a way. Sometimes it's just doing it and then going, that didn't work. Too many Krynic, not enough Krynic strands and too many silk and ivory, because the silk and ivory is puffy and it compresses down differently than the Krynic does, which has a very, very condensed, tight. I mean, you guys have used Krynic, you know what it is. Well, the majority. So these are some of the ways that I figure out how many I have to use. For really long cording, I like to use these spools if I can find them. It's called crochet yarn, what they call it. I just took these off too. I'm the person that goes back to the trash for the brownie box to remember how many eggs do I put in this? How many tablespoons of oil? Yeah, that's me. So this is crochet thread is what they call it. And this is kind of an off-brand from Hobby Lobby. It's their particular brand because they don't carry any brands. But it comes in DMC also carries it with all of their same numbers for the colors throughout it. Pearl cotton. So this is a number, it's interesting. This color, which is very close to 815, it is a number 10. It's very thin. But this is a number 5. So you can get these larger spools in 5. What's it mean with the thinner? I'm just going to have to use more strands to make it this same equivalent that I normally would. This is going to be for a stocking, and so are these. This is for 2 different stockings. I hope I can get both of them out of it, but I don't know. And so these are going to be 8-foot pieces of cording, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Now, Krynic, one of these spools, all right, we're going to start with the ornament size first, okay? And I'm going to put this in a supply list that you can download from my website, Starke, S-T-A-R-K-E, Art Designs with an S, at Comcast.net, and go to supply lists and classes. It's classes and supply lists, something like that. So the reason why I like using pearl cotton is because I don't have to unwind it. And what do I mean by unwinding it? Well, if I am using Krynic or something on a card, then I have to literally, now, oh, I do have my tape measure, okay. I was like, please don't make me have to get up and walk in front of the camera. It's not a good picture. So I'm going to measure out 36 inches. Why am I arbitrary 36 inches? Well, if I'm going to pair Krynic with my pearl cotton, that's how big it has to be, because when I do pearl cotton, I don't want to have to go do what I do to this, okay? And I'm just telling you this because this is, the length of this is what determines the length I'm about to make, okay, the 36 inches. To use pearl cotton, if you can't find it like this, to get a long, nice and long, I put this on a piece of foam core that is just wide enough to fit in here. And then I cut this piece, and then I just sit and I run it back and forth and back and forth so that I can have, if I do it the length of my board, which is 4 feet, and just keep unwinding it, then, and I only cut one end, that would give me 8 feet of pearl cotton. But for an ornament that is 4 inches around, and so the circumference of that, and I only know this because of my new line, is just under 13 inches, okay? And then your loop is 3 inches up, so then that's 16 inches, so then you need approximately 20 inches. Yeah. Especially if you want to make a longer loop, or if your piece, but I know after 20 some odd years that I can measure it out according to the 36 inches, because when they wind this, it's an 18-inch distance. And you're going, Kelly, still the 36, because this is what I do. Okay, I have to watch to make sure I'm in camera. And right where that little knot is that you would normally just tick off and takes a piece that's however long you want to use to stitch, and cut it right there. 36 inches. Okay, we have our 36-inch piece right there. And trying to make sure you can see it on all my multiple views of cameras. So now and I don't even have it out far enough. Okay, so here is our pearl cotton. You should have approximately 24 strands when you cut it at 3 feet. Okay, so there's 24 strands on here. When you unwind a spool, let's hope that I haven't used any off of this spool and it doesn't make a liar out of me, because you know, sometimes I use stuff and for other things, little bits to tie things off. So I'm going to take this, and hopefully in this camera there's a little metal piece right here, and I just put a piece of tape with this to that, on top of that, because it won't stick to my cloth. This is my blocking board, and the reason that I use my blocking board is because I can put push pins in the side of it very easily, because it is plywood and the edges of it are a little more porous and easier to get in than my wood that is the tabletop. So here we go. Ready? Drop the spool to the ground and just let it roll. If you have a cat, might not want to do this, but this is how I do this, because the cat might come over and chase it. My cat was too lazy when I had a cat, so they just stayed. I didn't have any entertainment as I unwound my piece. All right. So I take off one end, which is usually the tacked end, because this end already has the cut, the beginning piece. So I don't know why I do it this way, I just do. So I take off one end and I cut the loop at that end. All right. Kreinik isn't too bad as far as it, you can see how it's I'm letting it go loose and it's not a big deal. When we do this one, you're going to see a different reaction from the fiber because of how it's wound on, and it can get ugly. So if you want to, for your ease, when I teach people to cord and to use this, especially the ones that help me, I have them just put a little tab of tape, just gentle, it doesn't have to be a big deal, okay, on the end to keep it together, because I want to try to keep it as neat as possible, because if I have to take time to, you know, pick all of these pieces and make sure they're lined up with my pieces here. So let's count how many right now while I have it together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so you get 10 36-inch pieces. Now you can see I just unloop it there, get it off of that little bolt, that nut, whatever it is that this makes this adjustable. This is my fly tying vise. You can use a standard vise. I know people that use these clamps to make cording. I don't have the strength in my hand to use these like anymore that the other people do. You've seen me use these before for, well, I don't use them anymore, for the Limoges boxes. But you can use these as well if you want to, in a few minutes in the next part, clamp it down versus using tacks on the side, or just to use it instead of a vise. This would work. I just like my vise. All right, so now we're going to take this end and we're going to cut this end. If you wanted a long piece of Krynic, when you're winding it, if you wanted an 8-foot piece and you put your tack at this end and you did around and around, I can't tell you exactly how many you'd get out of one spool to use it for long cording. And this is gets to the point where if you're going to be doing that much long cording, you want to order a cone, because Krynic will sell you cones with the X amount of yardage on a cone, instead of using all of those tiny ones again and again. It's a little daunting, and I've done it where I've used 8 of those so that I had enough to make the thickness that the people wanted. And what you would do is, instead of cutting the tacked end, you'd leave the tacked end, you would remove this end first and only cut one end. And always cut the end that has the starter on it. Otherwise you'll end up with a 36-inch scrap piece, and you don't want that. Okay, so I have a little bit there left over. I don't keep this stuff. You can keep it because you probably stitch, but I don't stitch. I could stitch if it was my passion, but it's not. And I ended up in this industry in a very roundabout way. So it's just not something I do. So 10 strands of this. Well, how do I know how many pearl cotton to put with it? Because I've done it for 20 years. So if there are 10 strands of this and I did 10 strands of pearl cotton, it would not be even, because the pearl cotton would end up being puffier. So I would go with 8 if you want them perfectly even. 8 to 9. If it's only a little off, because I usually do pearl cotton cording 10 and 10. Why that number? Why that randomness? Well, you have to decide. It's always easier to cover sins with a little bit heavier cording. Okay? Waist canvas didn't get all the way around. It just, and I don't like the super thin cording on ornaments. I just don't think it looks, it just doesn't look right to me. Design wise, it just looks too thin, for lack of a better, duh, Kelly, we know that. You don't like it because it's just too thin for you. I had somebody that they prefer 14 and 14, which I know for Cheryl's finishing, she does 16 and 16 for stockings. That's considered thick cording for her shop. So, it's all relative. You just have to experiment. You have to figure things out and just, okay, I'm going to try this, But I'm also going to show you a little tester that I do to kind of help. It doesn't always work. It's not a guarantee. So when I do, I take the two pieces and I'm going to twist them in opposite directions. So I can kind of twist it down like I am when I twist it in a minute, okay? So here we have it twisted. And I want to say that's 1/16, a little over, not quite an eighth, okay? So I'm going to take out 10 strands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. By the way, if you do not cut it at the knot, or if you have accidentally not pulled all of the fibers to the same size, you might find you have some weird lengths. You really need to try to cut the pearl cotton or the vineyard silk or the watercolor at that knot at the top, okay? It's not that you can't use it or that, oh no, I've ruined the whole, yeah, no, you're fine. It's just that when you go to smooth it out, you might find that one of them's like 4 inches longer or 6 inches longer, and then you have to trim it. And so, okay, so here is our 10. What do I do with the rest? Isn't that a waste because you can't use the rest of this on long cord? No. This is why I have totes full of colors that I use. I make sure to keep the little sleeve with the number on it. We don't care about the other little one. And I feed it back through, put it in half, wrap it around my hand, start pulling the loop through, and just make a slip knot there so that I can pull it out. Now, some of you guys have those lovely cards that you can put it on and wind it, wind it, wind it. I just find that when you wind these things, then you get the little, and you unwind it, it can have bumps in it. So I just do it like this. For my totes, it fits in fine. And I put those into baggies, so to try to color coordinate them. But even those get all messed up, so. So let's take a look at the compression for, let's twist this in our fingers as tight as we can. 10 could be pretty close, but I'm still going to take it down to 9 because it just has that little bit more loft to it than the Kreinik. So now we get our ends together. All right. And yes, I took the tape off of this one. I did. I don't know what I was thinking because I'm crazy. And now my ends are all kind of woohoo and crazy too. So get your ends together like this. Okay. And sometimes I think ahead and I get this next step ready, but since I didn't, I'm just going to feed this through my fingers so that I don't have to realign all those again. And I'm going to get about, I don't know, 6 inches of fishing line. I go through this stuff like it's water. All right. Yep, goes in my mouth. I had a few white pieces that got mixed in with the blue because of the way I just held it. And I don't want that. It'll lead to little weird things happening. As you twist it, it's intertwisting with the blue, and you just don't want that. Okay, so here we go. All right. So typically, this is for you, how I want you to do it. Okay, we're gonna, hold on, in my mouth. Okay. I'm letting the little bits hang over the edge. If you need to, put your roll of tape on it to make sure everybody stays where you want it to stay. Okay? And I know that you really can't see this from the other camera angle, but they're just hanging over a tiny bit. I make my loop, okay, just like you're gonna make a square knot. And I put it over all the ends, make sure everybody's in there. Because it's really hard to do it the way that I do it. I'm used to it myself, but being able to lay it down and tighten it with two hands, I use my teeth instead and to tighten it because I hold one with my hand, hold this with my hand, and then yeah. So trying to figure out an easier way for you to do it, but you'll figure it out. Okay, so now we've made a full-on square knot there. We're gonna cut off these little, let's see, make sure you can see the trimming that off. I can see some fibers are quite short in there, in the white. We're gonna take our glue gun. You're gonna go, I am not doing this part. You wanna do this part because if you put this into your vise like this, these fibers, even though it's in the vise or under a clamp, they can still twist and turn. And then you don't have something that is a stable base for this fiber to turn against. I believe if you use the Kreinik twirler, you have the hooks and you've wound, because you have to wind it, and you're putting it through that loop at the end, so you're going against a loop. So it's, you know, a hook in the wall and then another loop. So you're loop and loop. So they're twisting against each other. But once you undo that and you cut the ends of it, you're looking at loose fibers that can start, as you're handling it, to loosen within it. Okay, within that twist. So the other reason I do it is because when I smash it in a minute, which of course I didn't grab my paddles. Sorry. I have some well, they're not needle nose pliers, but they're like little pliers that have they're totally smooth inside, so I call them, you know, paddle pliers. And it allows me to compress it flat. So I can, originally it was because I couldn't fit it in my tiny vise that is for making flies for fishing. And so I needed it to fit in there. But then what I found was that when I tried to slide it into my ornament, it was already flat and lovely. And I put a little point on the end of it. I cut a little point and it's like perfect. And it slides right in nice and it just lays really nice and flat in there. So that's the other reason why I do it. And if for some reason when I'm using my doll needle to push it down in, or your pokey tool or whatever you call it, if for some reason that fishing line let go because you're really torquing on it, that glue is going to still hold it all together. Otherwise, you use masking tape, it's going to unfurl. If it rips, it's going to start to untwist in there. And then also, I don't like using masking tape to put in there because, one, it's pretty bulky, and I like how thin this is when you do it the way I'm about to do it. Huge warning. I'm going to use the pliers to show you, but I use my fingers, and I don't advise that you do that, okay? Don't burn yourselves, please. At this point, I have asbestos fingers. It's like people that work with hot stuff all the time, they kind of become desensitized to it. So after like 3-4 years of not finishing, when I went back to doing it, I tried to do it the way I used to, and regret was plentiful. So now that I've talked for 20 minutes about this, I kind of fluff it and open it. And why do I do that? I want to make sure, hold on, I got some needle point laying here, and I don't think that's very wise to do that, okay? Because drips happen, and I don't want it to be on my skin, and I don't want it to be on needle point. I'm getting it in there because when we mash it, I want all the fibers to have, and I'm just squeezing just enough to cover these outer ones. I want to make sure it's right down by the fishing line as well. If you have a standard vise, you don't need the little pliers. You can just put it in there and smash away. That's how the person that does the majority of my cording for me now does it, so they don't burn their fingers. So you just squeeze it, okay? And it will let go because the metal is cold. It's not going to stick to it. Got a little bit of glue on some of the pearl cotton, but it pretty much pulls off. Okay, so that's how you do it. All right. So this didn't have a smooth paddle on them, so they're kind of rough. So I'm just smoothing out all of the little parts. It's not hot anymore, so I'm just using the heat from that tip because, ooh, baby, they're hot. And it looks like it didn't quite get enough glue. Okay. So now I'm going to trim this a tiny bit. Okay. Just in case you can't see it against the gray sweater. Alright, now I'm going to move all the stuff that I just put over here. I'm going to put this in the vise. Well, I'm going to try to because I've got a big old nugget of glue on the end because of not having the appropriate pliers. Get in there. That is the issue with this. I have to kind of pry it open. I have a butter knife I usually use for this. Yeah. Okay. There. Okay. So I'm going to show you two ways. So I want to talk to you about the different fibers and the next steps. So when pearl cotton is manufactured, the way that they turn it, so Krynic, I'll go back a second. when you twist cording, if you've watched my basic video, you know that I twist clockwise to the right. I just learned how to do cording by going into Joann's, and I bought some cording and I cut it and I watched how it unspun to see how it worked. So when I did this, I was like, oh, we're just turning it to the right and the other one to the right, and then it goes back to the left. Okay. So I never ever thought about it as I was doing this until I started trying to explain it to people. And I also had some fiber that wasn't behaving the way I thought it should, because like I said, I use everything. And so if you find that the rule is pearl cotton has to be turned to the right, because if you try, you can make cording the other way by going counterclockwise and counterclockwise. Kreinik doesn't care how you twist it. It's like, yeah, I can twist left, I can twist right, I don't care. You do it to pearl cotton, you're fighting the way it's manufactured and the way they twirl it to make these fibers, to make your thread. Because even though it's not strandable, if you look at it, it's twisted together. Okay? So you have to go turn it to the right for your pearl cotton and the majority of everything else. Someone told me they were using a specific kind of fiber, and of course I forgot what kind it is and I cannot remember. And it turned out, I said, you know what? She goes, it just won't get tight. And I said, maybe you need to, if this is the fiber you use, because this is what that person likes, and you need to try doing it left on the white strand, the blue strand, and then when you put the two together, you're going to turn it back to the right. It's just, she was fighting how these people produced that fiber. So, as a rule, that's the rule on pearl cotton. Okay, like I said, Kreinik doesn't care. So we're just basically doing 36-inch ornament basic, but this is how I'm telling you, sorry if it seems over explained. If you want to do 3 chords, I haven't ever been able to do, I think it's above 5. When you try to do 6 different colors, what happens is one of them becomes the center that all of the others want to wind around when you're twisting them all back. Okay? So with this, maybe I'll do this. Okay, I'm changing it up from 2 because I've done 2 color cording before. Let's go ahead and add a third of this color so you can see how it behaves. All right. So I'm putting some, since we're using 3 colors, I have to have 3 pieces of tape ready, then 1 piece to bind them all together, and then, okay, so I can turn them back. We'll get there. I know, jumping around. So, again, hate the cards. They don't unfurl nicely. Kreinik's on the lovely spool, so it just goes brrr, and you can just put the card down and it's fabulous. Or put the spool down on the floor. By the way, always pick the spools up. They're worse than Legos. Can't tell you how many times I've stepped on these with my bare feet because my studio was at home for many years and just wanted to cry. It's just like, oh my gosh, why did I leave that down there? You can also get like a small square box to drop them down into. This is what happens when you step on them enough. You think of ways to not have them and have them fly off somewhere where you can't reach it. So I've taped it onto my vise, just like I did the earlier one, and I am going to drop it to the floor. You got to kind of bounce it along. Anytime you're using a fiber that has a lot of give to it, keep it loose. Don't wind it on there tight like you're doing emotional stitching and make the stitches all tight. Keep it a little loose, okay? Because what'll happen is it'll not be, when you cut it and it relaxes, it won't be 36 inches anymore. So you're making it even shorter. I think I'm gonna do 10 strands of this because I think there's actually more fiber on these cards than on the spools of Krynic. So it just butterflies down to the floor. So this is, we're at 6. Oh, maybe not. 7. Let it relax. I'm getting a little tight with it. This is 8. I do have to do the same thing. I still have to stop and count after I just counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. I can't get 10 of it. So 9 it is. And I actually think it might be a little thicker. It might be a little thicker than Krynic. So when this relaxes, well, this one isn't even that bad. Usually it's very kinked up. Like this was the end of the spool, so it was tight against the card. Sometimes this stuff will just kind of go poof. If it's really thin. It just all depends on what you're using. And I'm keeping a hold of this end. I'm not going to take a chance like I did the last time. And we'll just keep a hold of that end and cut it. Right? Yeah, there you go, Kelly. Don't make it so difficult. Just saying, cording takes forever. Especially when you have to unwind stuff. Ugh. That's why I just like the pearl cotton. Cut and go. Alright. Lay that right on top of that previous piece, right? And we're going to bring this around. I'm holding it because that first cinch will loosen, and I don't want that. I want this nice and tight and snug. Okay. And make sure all the little bits don't get caught in any of that knot, because I don't want to have to go back in and re-knot. Everybody get in? Yes. Alright. My glue gun. And I'm going to really goob this up again. I wet my fingers because then the glue does not stick to my fingers and burn me. And that is how I do it. There's plenty of tools to keep you from doing that. I hear that there's some really great Mylar that does not, that the glue won't stick to. You take care of you and make sure you use all the precautions. I also, if you noticed, waited a few seconds for it to start to cool a little bit before I did touch it. But I prefer that you start with just smashing it in a standard vise. Okay, you're gonna laugh at this next part. I can't fit it in my vise anymore. So what do? Change vices. No, I didn't used to have a vise, so anything that has this type of clamp on it, you can just put it underneath. Hold on. I don't know if you can. No, it's off camera. There. I have set it right underneath that little derp. So this is how I used to have to do all of my pillow type cording because it was huge. The ends of those get so thick. Okay, now I gotta lay everybody back out again, get them all smoothed out in their own. Sorry guys, you just can't hang out together like that. No going over each other. Okay. I think our blue one might, I'm not gonna say. It just looks a little thick, so we'll see. So we have our 3 pieces of tape waiting down here, 1 for each color. Smooth it. Now, make sure you're going to get tape on the ends of all of these. I put it at the top. Why? Why does it matter, Kelly? Let me put my tape where I want to put it. Well, I've found that as I start rolling it to the right, if I start to put it there, then I can roll it to the right and the tape rolls to the right with it and the tape doesn't loosen because I've rolled it as, and I don't want to make it sound like I do that kind of rolling where I roll some cigarettes, but it's like that when you're trying to roll sushi. You want to make sure to roll it and get it nice and tight around it so that this end isn't turning either. The fibers aren't in there just going, whoo-hoo, let's move and not get tight. No. Okay. Now, I'm trying, you're like, Kelly, what are you doing? What are you looking at? Okay. So when you're doing tricolors, I like to look at how it's stacked. And even though I just pulled that white, I want to do these kind of in a specific order. And that is because when you go to twist back 3 colors, 4 colors, they love to get unruly and line jump over. And then your pattern, all of a sudden you got this little boop and changes pattern. Then you have to go back and kind of untwist it and make that one that got a little crazy and went out of line and put it back into line. And it just doesn't quite get back as tight as it should. Yeah. So if we keep it organized, we shouldn't have any of those little jumpers. Okay, so now turn this so that we can see this end. Okay. And because you can see the other end. This is why I had to put up so many cameras. Is ridiculous. Alright, so I'm taking off some of the hairy bits there. And I want to make sure I have plenty of, really, what good is a tack like that? Why do I put them back in the box when I'm blocking and they pop off? Not brilliant, but I do it all the time. I did not say I was brilliant ever. Okay. I'm looking at my tape going, I had 4 here. Oh, you already put it on the white, you goof. All right, so here we go. Goes on the top, rolling it away from myself, clockwise to the right, however you want to think of it. So I roll that tape on, right? And I'm twisting to the right. So the next thing that I kind of want to address. So I have one of the, it's called LASIK spinner. And it has 4 little things up here. It's like the twirly things you used to be able to get for your hair in the 80s. That does not have enough torque. It says 5 to 6 strands at the most. Well, here's 10. It just doesn't have the power to do it tight. I do it by hand for the short ones. I'm going to show you how to do it with the drill on the big ones, but you can do it on the small ones. I just find it a little daunting. This is my drill. It's tiny. It's a nice little DeWalt 12 volt. It makes amazing big cords. I cannot get them tight enough with my hands. I'm also going to say cording and blocking and pulling a curved needle are the 3 reasons this thumb doesn't love me anymore and wants a divorce. But stuck with me. So we're going to twist to the right, right, away, away, away. Clockwise. Yeah, clockwise. Okay, starting to get tough. If you notice, I use both thumbs, both hands. I'm twisting, twisting, twisting. So it really doesn't take that much longer. Safety note. I need to pull this and stretch these fibers. Always hold it with your other hand when you tug it. Okay? Reason? I've had it pop out of the vise when I do that little thing. Okay? So here we go. Back to what we were doing. And now, twisted. And if I let this, I don't want to have it do it. You can kind of see it wants to warp. See that? It wants to roll over on itself. It's that tight. I'm going to keep going. You got to really hold it out here. Keep pulling it away. Otherwise, it's just going to go boop and roll over on itself. Okay. See, really wants to do it now. See how, oop. Let's see, can you see that? I've gotta, oop, I'm just making everything else fall. Oh, there, you can see it. Right there. It just rolled over on itself. So I want to kind of untwist it a little and pull it so it gets rid of that. We do not want that before we do the rest of our, because if that bump is still there when we twist everything back counterclockwise, it'll never go away. Well, it's not that it won't never go away. It's just a really big pain in the butt to get rid of. Avoid it. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put this on top so you can see it. I normally do it on this side because plywood straight down in is a little difficult. Okay, so I want you to notice, can you see how these are kind of in there? This is why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. Okay? Why I'm layering it the way I'm layering it. So the next one will be the blue because it's on the right side of that when we did that. Okay? Again, my sincere apologies for my camera operator. I don't have another one, so you're stuck with just me. Smooth it out. If you have to, if you see some that kind of are way down in, go ahead and pull them and see if they stay out a little further. It just might have, got twisted around another one further in. Okay. Again, at the top, and rolling it, not smashing it, roll the tape. Okay. Go, 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 go. I don't know how much further in it's going to compress. These might not be equal. Don't go by that. Go by how tight and how much it wants to turn back on itself. Okay? It's getting really hard, but you gotta over twist it. Okay? We're gonna hold with our left, pull to the right. Okay, keep going, keep going. Ooh, I see it starts to get these weird little dents. See how it wants to go right there? Yep. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure to lay this right next to the gold one. Okay? And get the hammer. If your hands don't like it, mine don't like it, the board's too hard, pound it in with the hammer. Okay. I won't show my age and sing the song. So, okay, this was all smoothed. We got it all nice. Let's see, so we turn right. Oh, so exciting. This is why I listen to crime dramas while I make, because I'm just not that exciting of a person. And it's getting really hard. Oh, so hard. I am not going to be happy if... It's so funny because certain Krynics are so dense that they compress differently. Certain golds compress differently. The one that has that kind of less shine to it is kind of that matte one. I like that one, but it doesn't go with a ton of stuff. This is really, look at that dent. You can really see it wants to go. Okay? This is like it's a white with a bit of pink running through it. So it almost looks like a peppermint stick. Very pale peppermint stick. All right, so now you're going to think this is odd. I'm stacking them. I'm going to stack them like a triangle in a second. I got to make sure I can move it. I'm going to try to sit it right on top. Yeah, I got a long tack. I can do this. Anyway, Kelly, what do you mean by stacking them like a triangle? You can see. Okay. The blue and the gold are together. Okay. See? So it stacks like a little triangle. All right. I know you can see the gold down here, but this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take a long piece of tape, and I don't want one of these to spontaneously unfurl because I let it go. I took the tacks out and I just went, I can bundle these together without the tacks on. No, don't do it. Not worth it. Okay, so I'm trying to keep those stacked the way I want them. I can also put them back before. All right, so now, okay, I slid that right under the 3, wrapped the little piece up, wrapped this piece around. So everybody's together. Now I can take these out and feel like I have control. It's really important to keep this controlled. You don't want it to go spaghettiing, because that's what it looks like. It looks like a giant nada. Ugh. Okay. So I have taken out the tacks. Release the cording. And now we're going to take off these bits so we're not fighting them as we now turn it counterclockwise. I'm turning it towards myself. Now, I'm turning this back because I'm looking down this cording to make sure that as I rotate it, it's staying in that 3 stack, triangle stack, okay? So I'm turning it back towards myself. I'm watching, making sure everybody's behaving themselves. There's no guarantee, even doing this, that you won't have a jumper. Looks good, looks good. Okay. Back to me, back to me. Keep going. It's fighting me, turning it back to me. I want to over tighten this. It helps everything align. Okay? You want to kind of just keep going till you can't do it really anymore. All right? I can't do it anymore. Don't let it go and just let it go. Woohoo! Slowly let it go back. Okay? So the gold ended up slightly smaller. We could have kept it at 10 with the blue because the white didn't compress as much as I thought it would. But when you look at it, it's pretty good. It's pretty close. Ends up being an eighth. One, two. No. Wait. So there's a quarter. There's probably about 3/16 with the fatness of the white one. Typically, for 3 colors, 7, 7, and 7, 21 strands. Because if I use 10 and 10, right, for my traditional average cording, doing the 36-inch long, so you know that if you like your twisted cord to be 10 and 10, then the more colors you put in, just divide it out and come as close to that as possible if you're just using pearl cotton, or if you're just using Krynic for every color. You're going to use, oh gee, 10 Krynics get me. Now, but remember, what I just proved with this, that gold ended up being, or excuse me, the white, ended up not compressing as much. Oh, sorry. Can't just pop my vise open there. Ended up being thicker. So even if you used all Krynic and went, well, I did 10, 10, and 10 of, I did a spool of each one, it still might not give you perfectly even, okay? It just, I really thought the blue and the gold of that treasure chest would be thicker than this, but the compression rate was much different. If you are a person that glues their cording on, and you better only use Fabri-Tac, Eileen's in a pinch. I don't like Eileen's because I just don't. Reminds me of school glue, Elmer's. But I know it's not. So the issue with doing uneven cording where you don't have them all the same when you're gluing is that you have the potential to have that not glue the same, maybe not get any glue on that because it's smaller than these two others. Or you just got to make sure to really compress it to ensure that it's going to get down. I don't like tricolored cording for one reason. If I have to marry it together, it can be a pain. For as detail-oriented as you guys think I am, I love easy just as much. And I also have a thing about sometimes tricolor cording, make it subtle. Because I find that if I'm putting it on a piece, I don't want it to overwhelm the piece. If it's too busy, it's black and white and red. Well, there's black and white and red in that, but does it draw your eye to the cording? Do you want the attention to be on the cording, or do you want it to be on your stitched piece? It can be a distraction. So that's all part of the design aspect, which, by doing it yourself, you get to look at it before you do it and put it on the edge and go, oh, that's not doing what I was hoping it was going to do for my piece. So don't be afraid to take this, unfurl it, take a couple strands out of the thicker ones, and retwist it. I know, it's a pain, but this is how we learn how many of each one to use, okay? All right, so now we get to learn how to measure for a piece that is bigger, that we have to make long cording for. All right, how sad, I don't have a piece to use this on. And no matter how many times I've made things like that, it just doesn't ever line up with a piece that I have that comes in. I go, oh, can I use, no, oh, just not the right colors. Wrong color blue, wrong color gold. So when we look at watercolor and you want to use silk and ivory, or like my favorite sparkle white to use that has an iridescence in it is a yarn from Hobby Lobby. Yeah, it makes me happy. I love it. I used it in my boxed stand up with feet video that has like the ornaments on it. It's royal blue. Yeah, I love it. The compression rate is a lot more. So if I know I need X amount of cording, I have to allow for the compression rate, how much it compresses down. So we made 36 inches of cording. We started with 36 inches of cording. How much did we end up with? On an average, using pearl cotton, 36 inches of cording, you only get about 28 inches of cording from it, okay? And this only made, if I pull it, it would be 28, but I'm not, I'm gonna let it relax. It's about 27 inches, okay? And that's because there's 3 colors. So then they twist tighter, and just twisting around these others makes the compression rate even less. Gives you less cording because it just uses up that much. I hope that made sense. So you have to figure all of these things in with what you're using. That is why I always go longer. You're gonna go, Kelly, you wasted so much fiber. I do not want to come up short as I'm going around. And in one of my classes not too long ago, I had that happen where I really had to watch. It was the wedding pillow video class. It was close, and I had to make sure not to over twist as I was sewing it on because I would have come up short. I would have. That's also a factor of when you're putting it on. I twist as I go to make sure it's all even all the way around because as you put a piece on, it has a tendency to kind of loosen as you go, as you're putting it around. You have to make sure that the tightness that you have now at the beginning stays consistent all the way through and doesn't, so you're this at the beginning, but by the end it looks like this. It's because you're not keeping it twisted at the same, okay? You're letting it untwist as you go. So you got to make sure to watch it as you go around. If you're one of these people that likes to use the clips and pin things on before you do it, and you don't leave it loose like you watch my videos where it's like, woo, all over the place, and I'm constantly flipping it. I do that because when I'm sewing it on, I want to make sure I'm hitting a certain angle, certain stitch. So sometimes I unroll it to make sure that fishing line rolls in. If you're pinning it on prior to hold it in place, just make sure as you're going around, because especially, I don't know why, around round ornaments especially, by the time you get around as you're laying it down, it'll be longer if you don't watch it. So if you pin it on ahead of time, no judgment, you like to do it that way, great. Just make sure that it's laying on and it's twisting at the same size. Your twists are the same length at the beginning and at the end. If this spot looks a little loose, then go take the clips off, turn it a little tighter, and you're good. Okay? What would we have done if one of these jumped? You would just kind of unroll it like this and literally forced that gold back in. See that little, we kind of created our own little line jump there. So you just uncurl it and push that white back around. But do it in small increments. You're going to have to do that especially if it's at this end, you have to do it all the way to the end because you can't just come here and push it this way. Oh, whoops. I was doing it the wrong way. So this is our end that was down there. And we had a jumper. If you're starting at this end, you have to make it go all the way to this end and realign all of those all the way down. You're going, Kelly, why don't we just unwind it? For some reason, it doesn't work for me. You can try to turn it back to the right again, all of them together, so that they're all back in the straight. It's just really kind of hard to do, and so I just retwist it and make it align, make it jump back over. Okay, back to what I was talking about. I started moving threads around and started thinking of other stuff to say. Okay. I really hate doing long cording. I'm sorry, guys, but I do. It's really... But I have to do it because I have 3 stockings to do and a stand-up for tonight. So, here we go. Alright, we'll start with this. Of course, that means I get to make you nauseous and move my camera around. Okay, so this is the reason why I have my cloth tape out. We're going to measure, and I just lay it around. Now you're going, oh, geez, Kelly, why do you have to use... it just works for me. Why can't you just use a ruler, measure up, measure across, measure down? I like my cloth tape. It's fun. Piece of fishing line on here. And then when you measure the bottom, you got to double it because you got to go around it. So I just go like that. Make my life easy. So it's 38 inches. Now, I want to do 10 and 10 for this because it is a stuffed stand-up and it's just to cover my seams. I don't want it too thick going around the bottom, so I'm doing it ornament size. At 38 inches, 4 feet is not enough. I'm gonna do 5 feet. Yeah. Which is the length of this bench. From there to there. Or I could do it, 2.5 feet in front of me, but that little do-do-do-do-do-ish. I took my vise off. I can still use it for this one. Okay. I'm going to end up having to pause and go get my other vise because I'm not walking in front of this camera, which is bum height. Okay. And even though this is 10 and 10, and I could probably get away with doing it by hand. I am going to use a drill on it because the longer it is, it takes time. Okay, get that little out of there. Okay, we have a forest green. Right, there we go. Tape that down. And now, don't really need to see me unfurling this. Okay, but I like to talk as I go, so of course my camera's going to be difficult now. I need a camera person. Okay, what am I at? Oh, 6. Okay, I've got to pause this for a second. Okay, I'm back. All right. Like I said, I could do it 2.5, but just so, we're doing 10 and 10, so that's 20 strands because I'm doing a solid because I don't want to take away. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I should do the white fuzzy yarn. I like the thought. It is snowy. Eggs. Right. I gotta dig it out. Hold on. I have some further down in the ton-o. Where the heck is it? Oh dear. It's the one I have in my hand. Okay. Alright. You go in there. Leave the pile on the floor. Oh, I think I like that better. I like this better. I told you, it makes me happy. I am so weird. Fuzzy yarn makes me happy. At least I'm with a group that probably understands that. Oh dear. These are the things I made my kids do when they were little. Here, rewind this for me. But then they started saying no. You know, it's no wonder they used to let me go out of the house with my ears on. They think they're so funny. Yeah, I just caused a knot in it. Yeah. I'll deal with it when I gotta use it the next time. Hope you guys are fast forwarding this. All right. Change of plans. Now, because of the yarn, we got to do what we were talking about before. I'm gonna make I know we only need 38 inches. I'm going to make an 8-foot piece. Right? So if those are 5 foot, and then I did 8 foot. This should be enough. We'll find out tonight. So, what's the rule of thumb with yarn? Don't wind it tight. Yeah, don't laugh at me. I just don't want to get caught off guard and not have enough earlier. I'd rather have more. Because who knows? This stuff I can use again. It's, generic color. It's neutral. There you go. It's neutral. So, nice and fluffy. We don't care. I can't let this just go on my floor because it would pick up every schniblet that is down there and it gets stuck in the cording and then you'd hear very bad language from me. So yeah, let's just not do it. Let's just play it safe. So, how many strands are we going to do? We're going to do, let's do the test. Here's 3. I've done 3. I know 3's pretty close. To what we want for a standard ornament. And that's the other reason why I like using this fuzzy yarn. I don't have to do that many strands. The stuff that looks like spidery, it's for scrubby pots and all that stuff, doesn't work. It ends up looking weird and wrong and too long, and so, yeah, just saying. So that's 4. Yeah, we're only doing 4 and 4. What did I say we needed? 38 inches. There's the whole brownie box syndrome again. No short-term memory. Yeah, I know, I'm in trouble. I'm only 54 for crying out. Oh, I'm 53. Heavens to Betsy. I'm aging myself up. What the heck? Okay, so that's 4 and 4. Boop. Cut. Oh, I'm gonna have to use the other vise. But that's okay. I went and grabbed it from off the other table while I paused and made a phone call. Okay. It's so pretty. I just love it. I mean, it's not applicable to everything, but ooh, it hides a lot of sins too. because that fuzz comes out. It's like, oh, what's that? A little dart can be seen? Not anymore. Hidden. Okay. I got a piece that's quite short. Definitely gonna make sure to hit that with glue, 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 glue. Got a glue booger on there. Drip. Doesn't happen too much because of the high temp glue and the glue gun I use. Getting that glue right down in there. These big ends. Whoops, I forgot to put my vise up there. The big ends like this, the glue gets pretty thick in there and will, I'm not doing fingers for this. The big vise. Take it, and when we put it in, we open it up nice and wide, all gluey and disgustingly hot, and just mash it down. I mean, mash it. I got a little of the top out, dang it. I should have put it in further. Let's see if I can still mash that bit. Smush. Okay. Nice and smushed. Okay. Now, I don't put it like that when I make cording. When it's in this vise, it goes like that. Okay. I want it pointing in that direction. Okay, so I'm just taking off some of the excess smush. Putting it back in. Okay. There. Okay. Just making sure it's still going. I'm recording. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try to make sure that they're not crisscrossing strands. Ooh, we get to use the drill. How exciting. Okay. Oof. Don't ask. I don't know. Shouldn't have. But it did. So because of that, pull everybody down. Oh, bugger. You know what? That is just how yarn is. Oh, you fussy little things. They're so stretchy. I thought that, yeah, no, it's fine. It'll be fine. So we go all the way out, smooth, smooth, smooth. And this little thing is still too long. All right, 3 pieces of tape. 1 big one, 2 little ones. Okay. Now we use this camera for a few minutes. So pull it out, make sure it's nice and tight. Right? Put it on. Top of the, right? Okay. And then we to the right, to the right. Okay. here's where everything changes. All right. I've got the light over here. I have my boom light over the top of my box light. So now, this is what the end of the drill looks like, and this is where you put a bit in. Okay, it opens, it closes by turning back and forth. Okay, put that in, and we turn it until it is so tight like it would down on a bit. But you know how to do it by hand. You can do it by hand if you don't have a drill. It's okay. You can do this without one. Even the really long stuff you can. Don't freak out that, oh my gosh, now I gotta go buy something. No. It's just, I'm showing you both so you know both. Now, we gotta make sure it's going to the right, okay? So, the last person that used it didn't change it back. It's going counter. The key to, when you're doing it in your hand, you just naturally let it go back. Because it's twisting tighter, it forces you to have resistance against it so it doesn't curl over on itself, right? Well, same thing with this. You got to make sure that this is back here. Everybody's smooth, everybody's happy. And we just let it go. But you can see from the camera, it's getting further away. And it's starting to furl, it's starting to turn over on itself now. Okay? I'm pulling it. I can see, I cannot, oh, see there's already a turnover on itself. It's hard to see on the furry stuff. Okay? So now I'm going to loosen it just a little bit. Don't over tighten it so much that you can't get it back out again. Sometimes I do that. I'm a little too heavy-handed with it, and I regret it a lot when I do that. All right. So you can see me there. You can see me here. Oop, dang it. I let it go too far to the left, and it started to turn over on itself. Got little bumplets on there. I don't want that. Now, I have it so far, so tight to the right that you're not seeing how long it's going to be right this second, okay? Because it's pulled so tight that, and there's a lot of elastic in yarn. You know, it's very stretchy. Well, some of it, but this is especially. So this is why I was so careful about trying to make sure my measurements were right, or as close as I can. Because when you pull like this, it's just, you're making it like it's longer than it is. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna put the tape on like that and roll it to the right. Okay? We open it up a little, close it up. Okay. We start again. Back a little. Yeah, it's about to flip. Okay. With the two, even with the two, I want you, especially with the drill, I want you to put a tack in, okay? So it stays where you want it, so you feel secure, okay? Because these are even more compressed than the ones that you do by hand, and they will really spring back. I don't know if it's because of the rate of speed it does it at or whatever, but with the length. Okay, so now I slid it under the two, okay, and now I am wrapping it around. I'm holding this down with my thumb. Oof, and I dropped my tack. Good thing I got a huge box of them there. Holding it. Keep it really tight or else it'll fold over on itself. Keep it to the right. Right, right, right. Taut, taut, taut. Okay, so now it's going to come back towards me. And you can feel it fighting in your hand. It just wants to go back the opposite way. Okay, so we're going to not do it by hand. What are we doing? We're putting it back in the drill. Now we got to open it up pretty wide to accommodate both. Okay, now it's set to go right. So there's a little button right here. You click it and it goes the opposite direction. One's for screw and screws in, one's for screw and screws out. One's for doing single cordings to the right, one's for doing both to the left. Just keep going. Okay, it's really over twisting itself again. We're going to give it a little pull. Oop. There we go. It just wanted to jump right out of my hand and go boing back the other way. We're just going to just loosen your hands and let it go. Run gently through. Everything's controlled. Don't just let it do what it wants to do. It's a baby cord. It needs help and guidance. All right. And here we have the lovely fuzzy cording. Woo-hoo. Make sure that there's no, it's always kind of a little bumpy, so it's just, but I love it. Ooh, it's so soft too. Okay. And that's done. So I also have a wool pillow that I have to do. Not a wool. A wool cording. These were wound around a my 6 foot blocking table that's in the back. You can sort of see it on the sawhorse legs with all of the packing material behind it. We're going to do this real quick. It'll be interesting to see how much shorter, let's measure. How much cording do we have? Probably 50 inches. And that I wound down to the end of the table, which is 5 feet. So we lost a lot. Because it's not actually 5 feet. It's another 20 inches. So it's 68-inch table. And now we only have 48. $50. So we lost Yeah, 18 inches. We lost 18 inches when we did that. So even though you might think it's wasteful, let it be wasteful. If you don't know how it behaves, just take a precautionary and make it longer. Because having to rip off cording off a pillow, have a box of tissues nearby, because you get to the end and it's not my piece, so I can't just chuck it across the room and be like, what the heck? It's my own fault. If I don't measure it right and I don't give myself the extra. And unfortunately, most of the stuff that came from this store came with the fibers, and so it wasn't always fibers that I could find locally. So then it's, oh, you gotta ship me more because I can't find your fiber. Yeah, no, it's not a call you want to make. Okay. So I'm using a tapestry wool that I got in Michael's. Go figure, right? Because I could not find the right colored navy that I wanted. And wool yarn compresses to the most gorgeous cording. I know it seems weird. The acrylic doesn't do it. But it makes this because it kind of sort of felts down. It compresses so much that it just kind of felts. So let's see how this does. This is the only stuff that I could find that was the right color to go with this pillow. And it is not, it's not easy to work with, because it being, I just hope I did enough for this pillow. This is why when people asked me about what's the best material to use, what's the best this to use, that to use, I use whatever I can find the color in. Because sometimes, saying I use ultra suede and I'm going to match this color, good luck finding, I want velveteen in this color. Whew, okay. Maybe if you're a stitcher, you should be going out and finding the fabric that you love that would go with the piece, and then pull your threads accordingly for both. Because, wow. Okay, top of the tape, roll, 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 to the right, 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 right. Going to the right. And I gotta say, even acrylic yarn, as long as it's, I won't even say that as long as it's a certain weight, give it a shot. Sometimes I cannot find fiber that goes, especially I do not like using silk and ivory for cording. Number one, it's going to be, if it's for a pillow, then it's, potentially going to be quite expensive too, as well. to be buying that from someplace just for hoarding. But again, I've used it. But, you know, recording, you know, it just is a little too fuzzy as far as not in a good way. And there's a chance it's going to pill. And we don't want that. So we know this was 6 feet, 72 inches cut, and I unfurled it very loose. Okay. And I mean, we're going on 2 hours. What's that tell you? Tells you it takes time to unfurl stuff. Unwind. Ooh, it's going. Okay. Ooh, jeez. Ooh, it fights you. It just, with the drill, it just is so easy to kind of because my hand can't, it just doesn't fight this quite as bad. Okay, I want to make sure you see what I'm doing here. Whoop, 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 whoop. Camera cord by the hot glue gun tip. No. Let us not melt the camera cord. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. So up here, we'll slide our piece of tape down behind. Wrap it down. Wrap it back up again. Okay. Pushing that down with my thumb. Okay. Ooh. That is seriously overturned. See, this is what I'm talking about. Maybe while I'm had it all tacked on there, it would have been smart to open this up a little. Yeah. Do it the easy way. Come on. Have you met me? I don't do anything the easy way. Okay. Oop, wrong way. You know I have no short-term memory. Come on. It's going to start to go back on itself now, just like it did in the beginning. Man. Oh, man. Now, I know this has some fuzz to it. I know. But I'm telling, ooh, see, I overturned it way too much when I tightened it on. I know. But that is a pretty cord. I mean, it is tight and it's nice color and it actually matches the fabric so perfectly. I'll have to give you an update once I get this pillow sewn together and on making sure that it, but I knew I had to do this, so I wanted to make sure you guys could see. Ooh. Hot glue gun again, excuse me, sorry. Whoop, up, up, up. You have no idea what a pain dealing with this camera is. Okay. All right. Okay, so I've been procrastinating because the really, really long ones are a really, really big pain. All right, so now I know I went ahead and measured out the other stockings. I'm just trying to get some of this junk off my table because I'm gonna need to. So here's our stocking. Raise it up, turn it down. Okay. So we do the same thing. Just never forget. So this stocking is going to have a tab with material for a hanger. I don't do cording for a hanger. I do material. Just because I can't do self-welt. I just don't want to do self-welt. I just don't want to. I've tried it. I hated it. Not doing it. But I do have done twisted cording. These are for friends, so that's why I'm doing them. I know you're going, I thought you only are doing your new stuff. No. All right, so it is 10 inches across, so there's 20. Remember that, because I won't. And then turn the heel, give the notch a little. You'd be surprised how much curvy bits add on. Let's see. 58, so 78. Six feet 72. So I am going to do it at, I'm going to make 10 foot. And you're like, Kelly, 10 feet? Yeah, I'm not coming up short. I have two other ones that are going to be 8 foot strands. So, okay. Bear with me. Pain in the butt again. Not even going to talk about this. I have jerry rigged up so many of these cameras. It's ridiculous. Okay, so what do we got going on? Think. Okay, so I got to do 10 foot of the burgundy, and she likes her cording thick. Okay, so take that off just to do the unwinding. Does anybody else hate this stuff as much as me? When it comes to finding the lead. Where's the lead? Oh, forget it in a thing of yarn. I always try to dig around on the inside and I never find it. And my mother, she was so good about it. She could usually find it because she was a crocheter. So this is thinner than number 5. And I usually do 24 and 24 for this person. So it'll be interesting to see. I might do 30 just to add some heft to it. I'm only going to show you one of these. Okay, I'm not going to make you sit through the unwinding of two more stockings. It's just going to be, oh, the fabulous thing I get to do this weekend. Oh, it's just one of the many things I do on the sidelines. See, and these are all things that you have to, if you're doing this as a profession, you look at it and you go, okay, this all has to be added in to the cost. But you can't price yourself out of market range either by going, I have to make this much per hour, you're paid by piece. And that's why you got to get smart about how you do certain things. And I know you're going, then that means I'm doing pre-made cording. Well, in a perfect world, try to find pre-made cording in the right color. Not always possible. Do I let it sit on the floor? Ooh, I have a box. Hold on. You can always tell when I have a lot of finishing to do and not a lot of painting to do, because there's always yarn bits or thread bits or bits, fabric bits when I'm finishing a lot. If I'm painting, it's relatively tidy if I actually vacuumed before I started. All right. I got a lot to do, so you might want to fast forward. I will try not to. If I think of something that's important to say, I'll wave to you. Okay, so you stop and listen. What is this? 5 feet. A little over. So I gotta stop. I already thought of something. So we're unfurling this at about 68 inches. We're only gonna cut one end, okay? So you have to only count. See how this goes around this? To count how many strands you have, you count the top one and this one on top, not the bottom ones, because you'll have one extra up here. If you want to keep within a specific number. Most pillows I do, people I work for, they like thicker cording on it. So I'll do 24 and 24 most of the time. And also, if you're doing a solid color, consider, instead of doing 2 twists, consider dividing it out by 3. It'll make a more refined cord and it'll look tighter. It won't get that loose look that only doing 2 sets. I think I might do that this way, this one that way. So it'd be like we were doing a tricolor with 3 groups of, so if that's what I'm gonna do, if I was gonna do 50, let's just say we do 60. Yeah, we'll do 60 strands. We'll see how much we can get out of this. We might not be able to get 60 out of this. 20, 20, and 20. Yeah, I will. Trying to keep it loose doesn't always happen. Oh my God, this is so boring, right? What are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 25. 26. Okay. Now we're cutting once. So we cut from this end because I can pull this towards me a little and pop it off. I could do it at that end, but then I'd have one rogue one that was too short. So you always cut the end that you started at. Okay? And now I'm going to put my finger through. Oh, you're looking at the ceiling. Stupid camera. Hello. The struggle is real. It's like so real and so annoying. I can't stand it. There. Okay. So I made sure to keep it apart because they're so fine they want to just go right together. Now, I typically don't do this, and kind of regretting that I did it this time, because when I go, I should have done them in bundles of 20 so that I don't have any issues when I go to separate them back out again. Yeah, the things that we think are smart at the beginning, not so much. There's a reason why I do it. Silly, silly me. So I'm getting my loop ready, tying it all the way around. This ought to be fun. Maybe I'll pause it until I get it all unfurled. Nah, I'm gonna make you guys fast forward through it so you can see how much fun life as a finisher is. Deep in. Of course, again, what did I do? I didn't put my smasher vise back up there for myself. Brilliant. Okay, and let's smash it. Stays hot a long time. Gosh, Kelly, why don't you do this at a glacial pace? Wow. All right. Okay. Beautiful. Now I might actually have to turn my camera at that end for you to be able to see all this. If I start to cry, I apologize. But not my most stellar move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, I will say this about fine fibers. The thinner the fiber, the smoother your finished cording will look, right? I mean, that's just a given, right? Okay. That's one. Divide it out. I want it to retangle with the other one. Okay, let's do this and that. So you can kind of see where I am in between. Well, I guess you can see it from the butt cam. That didn't sound right. You know what I meant. The one that's closest to the floor. 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, I gotta count the last group. Ugh. Back can't take standing like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Ruh-roh. All right, so if there's 17 there, so I need 1 from you. So there's 19. 2 from you. 19. There was 20 here. This is 18. And 1 from you. Oh, this was ambitious to think I could take the 1 strand out of that one right this second. Let's drop that one for a second. So when you're trying to divide out, when it's long like this, just like when you're trying to divide it out from, just keep the opposite end pulled out long so that it will hopefully behave itself. Okay, so I have to I don't think I can leave them all up on the table. Oh, there, you get over. Nope, I'm gonna have to lay them on the floor. Okay. And you, onesie, come out of the first section. Go to that one. Okay. Let's see. Alright, so I need, for as big of a pain in the butt as this is looking like, I think this cording is going to look really gorgeous. It's a very fine pro cotton because I think it said it's 10. And so it's going to have a much nicer, finer look to it, especially since we're doing it 3 sets. 3 groups, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I don't know, can you, yeah, you can see me on, you don't need to see me on the other one. All right. So I have my tape all pulled, right? All right, I am going to turn this. So you can see me tape it. I'm going to go on a camera. Yes, I am because I'm very close to it. I can see more of a closer view of my filthy. Okay, hold on. Loosening one part and okay. Now let's see how much this compresses. Where's my drill? Let's check a couple things. First, okay, going the wrong way. Okay, that's ready. Right? Of course, the finer it is, the more you want to take your time to try to get everybody sort of aligned. Right? Right. Make sure that you're getting all the tape. I'm coming in a little bit, rolling it. If I see like white fuzz in it, I'm going to try to get it out now, because as it compresses down, it's going to get stuck in there and it's kind of hard to get out. That's the reason why I don't put things on my filthy floor. It's not filthy, it's just got lots of schniblets everywhere. And my vacuum is angry at me because I make it vacuum up all these little schniblets of blue, and sometimes it refuses to work. Okay. We're there. What didn't Kelly get? What didn't she get? Tags. There's one. So now, let me just say, I really love my little wood bookcases. I have lots of, hold it, don't. Man, it just wants to, just fighting to go back. Hold on. There. Okay. Tags. I need 2 more tags. Okay. Which one do we want next? I think we'll do this one. Yeah, I can't. Yes, I can. So I gotta move a table out. Oh, sugar. Wow, I really gotta move it. So I can put it. Whoop. Just jumped right out. Alright. Sorry, you're gonna see me kind of up close. Smooth. Pieces of tape. Okay. This is so fine. I don't know if it's gonna be thick enough for what she likes. But we're this far, we're not stopping now. Ooh, I opened it way too much. Went from way too little to way too much. Here we go. Hope my battery lasts. That's a thing. Schnibble it right there. Okay. Sometimes I just really feel all thumbs trying to deal with these, with the drill. Oh shit. Oh, excuse me, everyone. Yep. Tax slipped. Yeah, definitely not as thick as I need. So with this particular one, I probably should have just used the whole friggin' skein. So instead of 20 each, it should have been 40 each. Yeah. Okay. I think I might be going out to see if I can find some burgundy wool of that tapestry. She loved, that's how I found out about the wool, is it was given to me to use by her for another piece. And because usually I do cording, she likes it this thick. This is not going to be that thick, okay? It's not in even close to enough strands. But like I said, I want you guys to see it. And more than likely, we'll probably have a line jump that I'm going to have to smooth out. It won't be as blatantly obvious because of the, being the same color. It's already turned over on itself right up by the drill bit. I definitely feel clumsy when I'm working with the drill. So if you feel that way, you are not alone. And it's also why if I knew this was going to be this thin, I probably wouldn't have used it. don't let go of that. Okay, so I gotta look and see, make sure everybody's sort of stacked the same as I'm coming down. Okay. And I'm just sliding this piece of tape, just like the other ones, under all three strands, sections. I gotta start coming up with a better descriptor. Okay, let's see if I can keep this under control. Maybe I can substitute this for one of the ones that was red that I was gonna do. Nah. Oof. Not a good view for you guys. Maybe I'll try to do a quickie video for you guys of the other one. Okay, so I think I have it stacked correctly. Go back to the left. I don't know, maybe I will use this. Alright, now we're going to let it loose, just loosen our hands and let it run back through. Look at how nice and tight that is. This is lovely stuff. Like I said, I needed to quadruple that so that it would be that thick. So if I can find the wool, I'll do the same thing, but I will do it the same way. I'll do it in thirds. Okay, so instead of doing just the 2 sets, I'll divide it out into 3. This is so nice that I really want to use it on it, and I probably will. Because on that boot, it'll be nice and subtle on the edge. It won't be too much. And this isn't a pillow, so maybe I'll get it, you know, she won't dislike it. But, so to kind of cap everything off, okay, you can use whatever you want. I know you don't want to waste product. I get that. I do. But you really got to experiment and be willing to test it out. You know, make up a cord out of some junk color that you have and put, 5, 5, and 5, do 3 of them, and make a sample of it, and make a little book with little pieces, it doesn't have to be a full 36 inches. And, if you find one that you like, then, make a note of how it behaves, and, compresses really thin, always add extra. I know that I am definitely not that organized. But over time, you start knowing, that two strands of this are good for an ornament. Okay? For the stand-up, this is going to be perfect. The stuff stand-up that is for tonight. And, I can't tell you anything other than the twisting trick to try to see. I definitely should have done that with the burgundy one. I should have done the compression twist, because I would have known right then that I needed at least twice as much. But again, I'm not going to keep kicking myself about it, because it's, oh, by the way, it is, where's my little tape? Here it is, right under my nose. So this ends up being a 1/4 inch. Okay, and this one's 3/8. It just looks kind of extra poofy and bigger because of what it's made out of. This compressed, it was so fine, it compressed so much. And it was just, it's a different type of crochet thread where it's a harder twist, and it's also thinner. But something I want you to stay away from with pre-made. So a lot of the, I saw it in here, hold on. So I got some, because I didn't have any gold, and gold was very hard to find for quite a while, on the little cones, or the little spools for Kreinik, because they changed out the spools and all of that stuff. So I got some of this from Hobby Lobby. It's not bad, pretty close to the size that I needed for what I was doing. And when you look at it, it is completely all gold fibers. And a friend of mine came over to work on some special things for a stocking that she had to do these little add-ons for. And what happened was she picked up something that looked similar to that, and it was a little shinier and a little brighter. The problem with it was it was a foil that was wrapped around a piece of white, like what you use for self-welt. And, it's just this piece of white foam or piece of white rope, whatever is inside of that. So it wraps around it. And then what happened was as we tried to sew through it, the foil split away and made white spots in the gold. It was horrible. And so we just got rid of it. And so you want it, before you get any pre-mades, you want to make sure that it's all fiber. Kind of move it with your finger to make sure that it's not going to split if you sew it. The other thing is that, oh, I had it here a second ago. Hold on. So a lot of the pre-made, if you're sewing it on, hand sewing it on, they twist it the opposite direction of what we, they do the left. So when I go to sew something on, because I twist right, and I'm going sewing. If you look on the stocking video, it was a pillow, I think, where I talk about how to get your cording really tight. And I show how I'm going through the sections and feeding my fishing line through, right? And it always comes, and I have a specific way that I go. When it's twisted the opposite way, they all go the opposite direction. And so I had to do it from the reverse way. I gave up because it didn't go the way I normally do. And so I kept having to put it in the front to the back. It just didn't work for how I did it. And I was fighting it so much, it wasn't worth the effort. So there are some things to look at when you get pre-made cording. It's not that you shouldn't use it, it's just that you need to know how it's going to behave. So those are some hallmark things to look at. I also find that because a lot of them do wrap the rayons or shinier fibers around the white piece, that when you go to marry it, it's so thick. It's very hard to manipulate and to get it in. I personally just had such a hard time with it. It was just much easier to make my own. So the more you do it, the easier it gets. Using the drill does, lots of people swear by it because they can't turn it that tight. And they just find that it creates a much tighter twist. And again, I mean, this thing, it's not going to loosen. It's just not. Even if it's a monocolor, doing it in thirds creates just a difference. I know that these are different materials, okay? I get that. But if this was bicolor, it would look very similar to two sections versus three sections. And when I say that, it's like tricolor or bicolor, okay? So we divided this out into three. It just makes a more refined, but it's also much stiffer, okay? So because it is a little stiffer, if you have to make a lot of curves going through it, that's the other thing with this. If you have a really shaped piece, this would be very difficult to use on that unicorn piece that I did for a class that had like really sharp points on it. Trying to get this to bend up in is more difficult because these compress more, because these sections, because it's three, so there's less strands there, because you don't want it to get, you want to keep your cordings a little smaller. So then it compresses even more than this does. It makes for smaller sections when you do multiples. So think about this. If you divide this out into 4 groups, they'd be even smaller like this, but the cording would be thicker. Does that make sense? Should. It's going to be, you're going to have more sections. Even if it was, I'm not going to divide 4 out to 60 evenly, but, you know, go to a number close to that and divide it out. And even with as close as you could, it's still going to be thicker because it's going to be wrapping around the way the sections are going to lay around each other like this. It looks more refined and it's going to get a tighter twist. So you can try that too. But you need to just take some sections, and even if you take some of this leftover, okay, the 36ers, because I got a ton of totes of them, and did your samples and did, okay, this is 24, and so, let's see, if I took 10 out of this, this would be 14 strands, okay, right there. So if I did this many, so that's 28 strands there. If that's 14, yeah. So when you do it out, you'll have all of your samples lined up. And just sitting there and making that many little short tails to see what they're at are going to help you to understand how many strands you need. I know you don't want to. And maybe only do it for, divided it by 3. This is what I like. This is how many are in there. And, that may be a little too uber organized for you. But the only way to do it and to know is to test it and to see. And if you like something, definitely test it before so you don't make yourself crazy. Make the whole thing and go, oh, that's way off. I have to redo. Okay? I hope this helps. Sorry, it's like almost a 3-hour video. Yeah, pretty much. Almost a 3-hour video of just me talking about fiber and making cording. Take care. Hope it helps.